Dear viewers, hello. This is a new issue of the interview in France 24. Beirut, which was a leading city in the region, is today destroyed. To understand what's been happening and the latest news, I have the governor of Beirut with me, Mr. Abboud. Welcome to you, Mr. Abboud.
Hello, thank you.
What is the extent of the damage that has been caused in Beirut after the explosion?
Beirut is a city that is in ruins. It is almost as if it has been struck by a nuclear bomb. The port in Beirut is entirely destroyed. Half of the houses in Beirut are either partially or entirely destroyed. There is shattered glass in the streets. There is an ever-present danger for people in the streets because debris is constantly falling from the buildings and people don't know what to do. They don't want to leave their homes and they can't stay in their homes. The crisis is quite drastic and the Lebanese government isn't able to deal with such a catastrophe. In fact, I don't think any country in the world would know exactly how to deal with such a crisis.
Do go on.
It is for this reason that the people are angry. People feel that the government authorities aren't doing enough. But the truth of the matter is there is so much destruction, and we have little means at our disposal. We almost have nothing that we can work with, and we are still suffering the first shock. And that is why we need some time, a few days, for us to be able to muster up our strength that would enable us to be able to help people.
Mr. Abboud, more than 300,000 people are today homeless. What have you done to help them?
We are monitoring the situation closely. We are monitoring what is happening in the field closely, and we have contacted a number of the neighboring town halls to seek their aid. We have provided apartments and homes to rehouse a number of Beiruti citizens, but people are afraid of leaving their homes unprotected because they are fearful of home invaders. For that reason, the town hall has set up a group of police men and women to carry out night watches and night rounds. They have already arrested a number of people trying to break into others' homes. We are also keeping a close eye on the city borders. We have provided things for the basic needs, food, construction materials, so people can carry out the first essential repairs. It is our way of helping people get back to their homes.
Mr. Abboud, aid is pouring in. Who is in charge of distributing the aid? Can you guarantee that everybody will receive some of this aid?
Up to now, we have received no financial aid at the Beirut Town Hall. Financial aid is sent through the national government organizations. We are working, they are working, we are all working together to try and deal with the situation. The problem here is one of poor information. We don't have all of the information. The disaster is so vast, the devastation is so vast that all that we do seems to be so futile, so little compared to just how large this problem really is.
Mr. Abboud, the inhabitants are very concerned about air pollution, and they're wondering what sort of toxic air they are breathing. Have you taken steps? Have you given them advice or instructions?
From the very outset, we tried to carry out a number of tests. We originally thought that there was going to be a risk of radiation. In fact, we were almost sure of the fact. However, we then learnt that the pollution was, in fact, chlorine-based. So we're talking about chemical pollution. Such pollution is almost impossible to deal with. So the air pollution that was mentioned was then carried out to sea by a change in wind. Therefore, the air in Beirut is now perfectly breathable.
This means that those who didn't actually die during the blast will probably die because of the chlorine gas.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I don't think that the pollution levels in the Beirut area is that high. The air is perfectly fine to breathe.
Have you actually carried out any investigations about this?
That is not something for the town hall to deal with. It is not part of our remit. That is up to the national authorities to deal with.
But have you asked national authorities or anybody else to do that?
We have a number of priorities. Before dealing with the air and pollution, we have to deal with the rubble and removing the rubble. So we have priorities, and we can't deal with air pollution for the time being, given that there are still people, wounded people, who were buried under the rubble.
How many, according to you, are still trapped under the rubble?
We think that there are roughly 10 to 15 people still buried in the rubble. However, we don't have a specific list of names, with first names, family names, of those people who are missing, because a lot of people still haven't been reported missing. Simply, they don't have any family or loved ones who can report them as missing.
As the governor, did you know that there were explosives of this sort that were stored in the port?
The port in Beirut is independent. It is not within the jurisdiction of either the governor's office nor of the town hall. It is for that reason that we were never informed of the presence of such materials or such products in the port. Had we been informed of it, we would have done everything in our power to remove them from the port.
Who is actually responsible then for this?
It is not up to me to say who is guilty. We need to let the justice system deal with that.
Mr. Abboud, there may be other hazardous substances elsewhere. Have you actually carried out the investigations that are required?
There are government bodies in Lebanon who are looking into that, and I think they're doing a very sound job. I think that such a situation won't repeat itself in the future.
What about the cultural and archaeological heritage of Beirut today?
It is a major issue. We have a number of major concerns. In fact, there are two major issues to try and weigh up because they weigh against each other. On one hand, you have the safety of people and buildings, because there are some buildings that may collapse, and we have to ensure that they don't. On the other hand, there are a number of heritage buildings that are part of Lebanon's heritage, and they need to be protected because of that. So we have to protect heritage buildings, but we also have to ensure that those buildings that need to be destroyed are destroyed. And it's a very fine balance to try and find.
Have you set up any sort of special committee?
We have set up a committee. There are 100-odd engineers working either on behalf of Town Hall or a number of volunteers as well. Engineers from around the world, from the United Kingdom, from Europe as well. There are also a number of Lebanese volunteers, and they are all working together to inspect the buildings, and then they are drafting reports. In fact, today we decided to evict a number of people from buildings. They are no longer allowed to enter the buildings because those buildings are likely to fall.
Mr. Abboud, you accompanied President Macron during his visit. Have you set up a structure or mechanism to rebuild the port?
President Macron didn't talk of rebuilding. In President Macron's speeches, he spoke quite generally about support to Lebanon. He spoke of his love of Lebanon. President Macron visited Ground Zero, visited the site, and he was shocked. And he was so shocked that he didn't actually have much time to talk about such matters.
What about the wheat silos?
As for the wheat silos, they were entirely destroyed. And that is why they have to be rebuilt entirely. New silos. The Lebanese government will have to continue to deal with the crisis. All the while, we are waiting for new silos to be built. On top of that, we also have to deal with the issue of food supply.
As a judge, Mr. Abboud, what sort of actions do you think can be taken against those who are responsible for this explosion?
I was a judge in the past, but now I'm a governor. Therefore, I can't talk as if I were a judge because I am no longer one.
But as a judge, when you were a judge, you knew about the sort of sanctions that one could levy.
I think that they need to be tried and feel the full force of the law because this is like a genocide against Lebanese people.
How long and how much will we need for Beirut to be rebuilt?
Talking about rebuilding right now, it's a very tough thing to do. It's quite complex. On one hand, there is the disaster to deal with, but there is also the protracted economic crisis in Lebanon. It is for that reason that to talk of rebuilding right now is something that we just cannot do.
Do you have a message you would like to send out to world viewers through France 24?
My message is the following. Beirut lies in ruins. It has been destroyed. And it is a fate that neither Beirut nor Lebanon deserve. Therefore, we call on everyone, on all nations of the world, to send out their prayers, to send out their love. We call on them to send aid to Beirut, because Lebanon is a great country and the Lebanese men and women are great people.
Mr. Abboud, Governor of Beirut, thank you very much. I would like to also thank all our viewers worldwide. Thank you.